Calls to buy Australian made. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at a few articles about, well, renewed calls to buy Australian made. Now, we all remember Dick Smith Foods. This is an article from the ABC, and it's from 2018, where, well, they've shut down. They closed down. This was a locally made food product run by good old Smithy, where a portion of the profits, or I think all the profits, were donated to charity. And yet people still didn't choose them. We used to buy Aussie Mite. It wasn't too bad. But, people didn't choose it because for one simple reason. It was more expensive. It was more expensive. Cost of living is going up, guys. We all know that. We all know that. The argument that CPI is low is a joke. Wages, well, they've stagnated. They've gone up. Houses, well, houses. We all know houses have shot up. They've shot up, and the government is throwing everything they can to stop this bubble from bursting. So people have to save more, and they have to cut back. And, well, buying a good for political purposes, maybe that's a bit of a luxury. Because it is. Sadly, it is a luxury. And, well, when you've got to tighten the belt, when times are tough, when you've lost your job, maybe by the government closing down the entire economy, some people can't afford to buy the luxury, the pay extra for the locally made. And I completely understand why people do that. We've been there. We've had it tough. We've really had to cut right back. And food is usually the biggest expense for people after their mortgage. So let's have a look at these calls here to buy Australian made. Because I think a lot of people are talking for it and advocating for it. Maybe it'll wake a whole lot of people up to realize how much is actually made from overseas. Because we'll look at another manufacturer that was offshore. We were, as architects, when we're specifying products, I really wanted to specify Australian made just to ensure easier access to goods and materials and to support the local industry. But more and more manufacturers that we knew have disappeared and have all gone overseas because the costs are cheaper. The problem is this whole push too for renewable energy that increases the cost for running a business. It's a big chunk of it. Power is a big chunk. Labour costs are high too in Australia. Regulation and green tape is quite onerous. So that's why, it's quite humorous, the big push for Australian manufacturing. What happens when people start, saying, oh, not in my backyard. I don't want to be next to this this factory or this production one. No, icky. Recycling's dirty. So, now more than ever, we should be putting money back into our economy and investing in Australian products. Australian producers, makers, and manufacturers. In doing so, we're investing in our future. An exclusive research conducted by the Humanity for News Corp's Australia's Buy Australia campaign, 9 in 10 customers said they would buy a product made in Australia if it helped save a business. Well, okay. It's easy to say that. It's very easy to say that. Because that costs you nothing. It's air. It's pointless. Think about 9 News Corp. All of their electronic equipment will be manufactured overseas. Every single thing, every camera, every computer. Nothing's made here. It's all brought from overseas. We flip houses. We dig stuff out of halls. We've got tourism, which is shut down. And we teach people from overseas English. That's Australia, guys. The survey also found the onset of the pandemic had been a catalyst for more than 70% of Aussies wanting to purchase goods made here, with almost 90% saying it was important to see their dollars going back into our community. And I agree. 100%. But when push comes to shove, are you going to pay extra to get less? Or are you going to pay less to get more? Go do a trip to Bunnings and compare the cost of things. I mean, some stuff is just insanely expensive. Even now, my microphone I have here, it's a Rode microphone. I bought it because it's an Australian product. It's all made overseas. It's all made. My little microphone stand you can't see here, that's when I realized it all came over from China. I mean, it's a great product. They gave me a warranty. I've had this is probably my 3rd microphone because 2 of them, one got damaged by water leaking through a roof, and they just replaced it. And then another one just went buggy and they replaced it. So, the Australian-made campaign CEO, Ben Lazaro, said the company's famous Australian-made, Australian-grown logo had helped thousands of brands communicate their credentials for more than 30 years. There are thousands of businesses that use the brand, even though the Australian-made logo job is to show country of origin, it conveys other attributes, he said. He said Roy Morgan research found 97% of Australians think the Australian-made logo is associated with supporting local jobs and employment, and 95% associate it with quality. Really? I think that's a bit out of date. You can get good quality stuff from anywhere in the world. Australia has some of the highest manufacturing standards in the world, but COVID has highlighted our over-resilience on imports, and there is a massive opportunity now to shift the needle back to Australia, he says. I think a lot of people were probably naive to the fact of how much stuff comes from overseas. Consumers are researching more. We're finding younger audiences are actually looking at things like sustainability and ethical labor. Food miles. They're much more invested in their purchases that play into the hands of Australia's manufacturers. Well, this is good, because I've met so many people that have all these social justice ideological positions. I remember this vegan, and they'd get angry at me because I'd leave my LED screens on at work. Oh, that's using power, and I go, it's nothing. It's inconsequential. And then I made an effort to work digital, to just work on the screen. They'd be using reams and reams of paper all the time and going, look at that. The paper used there is probably 3 years worth of me keeping the screen on. It wouldn't comprehend. Couldn't get it. But it's good to see people are becoming more aware. Embodied energy is a huge part. I mean, the fact that some of this food's imported from the other side of the world, I mean, it's how spoilt we are. It's a first world problem where everything is always in season. And it's one of the things I'd say why our diet is so bad, because in the past, you'd have sweets and certain fruits or vegetables would only be seasonal. So you'd gouge, and that's why you go on the sugar, you go sugar nuts. You can't stop eating it because it's there to build, to increase that fat layer for winter. So you've got it to burn off when you need to. Woolworths Group CEO, Brad Banducci, said the supermarket giant's Australian-first sourcing policy meant 100% of fresh meat, chicken, eggs, and meat, and 96% of fruit and vegetables sold in store were locally sourced. Well, of course it would be. Why the hell would you be bringing meat in from overseas? At least that's one thing we have a competitive advantage on. And I've told you in videos, and Rachel's done videos on this channel about how we buy our meat in bulk. We go to a local butcher and we buy it as the whole beast, as an entire beast. We don't go to Coles or Woolies. And it works out a lot cheaper, but you have to learn to cook every part of the beast. Woolworths has always had a close connection to Australian farmers and businesses, working together to bring their produce and products into the homes of millions of Australian customers every week. Well, we've heard about how many of the fruit and veggies just aren't acceptable to the Coles and Woolies and get just dumped. It's so much waste because it doesn't look pretty. It's just ludicrous. It really is. We partner with thousands of Australian suppliers to provide our customers with high-quality, locally made products, and we're working to deepen our partnership with Australian businesses to continue growing our vibrant local food and beverage industry. Yeah, I mean, it sounds good and fantastic, but look at the lobster industry in WA. Look at how dependent they are on Chinese imports, and they pay a lot more. That's why then they won't sell to this market, because we just won't pay the same prices. So when Chinese New Year ended or was delayed, their industry nearly was at the brink. Years ago, the co-op, which has now grown so huge, used to supply the US Army and all these things, and now, well, dependent on foreign sources. Works both ways, guys. We export a lot too. We export a lot. So Red Energy, owned by Australian company Snow Hydro, CEO Ian Graham, said we all played a part in helping rebuild our economy, and their company was committed to assuming its own role in doing so. The pandemic forced some changes into our workforce at Red. I've never heard of them. Some jobs were not possible. Instead of standing down employees, we took the decision to reskill and redeploy about 120 people into customer service and back office roles to support an increase in customer queries during the unprecedented times. Okay? Is that it? They move people around. Cool. So, well, let's look at an example where it sounds good, and the only examples they've given us are food. It's food. There's no manufacturing they're talking about here. It's food. Of course, it's all going to be locally made. Australia's the breadbasket of the world in many ways. If we have food shortages in Australia, it's going to be due to logistical issues, not lack of capacity to produce. So let's look at Koala beds, where they're moving offshore. And this is the story that we hear all the time. Because, well, it's just so much cheaper, guys. Look at AliExpress, how cheap you can get electronic components for. So, millennial bed brand, Koala moves manufacturing to China to help expansion. Online bedding company Koala, which markets itself as quasi-essentially Australian, will cease manufacturing mattresses down under. There you have it. I'm surprised they even were making anything in down under in Australia. Popular online bedding company Koala, which markets itself as quasi-essentially Australian, will cease manufacturing its mattresses domestically and make them in China instead. The company, which aggressively targets millennials through social media campaigns as an ethical and sustainable bedding alternative made in Australia, will move the production of its signature mattress overseas to support its growth in Asian markets. There you go. Australia's just the test bed, guys, for a lot of this stuff. Staunch supporter of Australian-made products, Harvey Norman, Executive Chairman Gerry Harvey, slammed their move, saying the name of the company implies the product is made domestically. Anyone selling imported mattresses are doing it because they can make more money. The marketing is dishonest. They're pretending they're Australian. Well, that happens all the time, guys. That happens all the time. And, I mean, you've also got the thing. You've got, Harvey, they've got imported products in their shop. You've got Dick Smith, he's got imported products that help build up his business. The retail giant's co-founder said overseas import made it harder for local companies to compete in bedding and furniture. Mr. Harvey said his store predominantly sold made in Australian bedding, supporting local companies such as Sealy's, Sleepmaker, and A.H. Beard. Koala mattresses have become increasingly popular due to competitive pricing and delivery guarantees of less than 4 hours. That's insane. Well, there you go. There you go. According to its website, the Sydney-manufactured mattresses are made in Australia for Australia. However, the company deregistered itself last year from using the Australian-made trademark. The company is backed by cricketer Steve Smith and offers 13 different home living products, 11 of which are made overseas. There you have it, guys. Wonder why they're doing it, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper. 9 items are manufactured in China and the other 2 in Europe. The decision to move the mattress overseas means only one product, a work-from-home desk, will be domestically produced in Victoria. The decision to cease production of mattresses in Australia will provide significant innovation and quality improvements to help drive our continued growth across Asia Pacific, the company spokeswoman said. Okay, why can't you have the innovation here in Australia? Why can't you have the quality improvements here in Australia? We don't have the scale. We don't have the same scale, guys. We're a smaller market. Sure, why couldn't they do both? Why couldn't they manufacture here and over there? Oh, because it's cheaper. And there'll be logistical issues too. Koala's mission statement said the company is environmentally conscious, making pledges to climate change action and habitat sustainability for koalas and sea turtles on the Great Barrier Reef. Mr. Harvey questioned whether those pledges could remain if all manufacturing was moved overseas, as the company's carbon footprint would be increased from a larger distribution and supply chain. He said there needed to be greater transparency as to what would happen to mattresses customers returned. We don't know what they're going to do with them. They'll dump them, or they'll strip them. If they come back, they have to be disposed of somewhere. Koala said the move offshore would mean it would have greater influence in cultivating sustainable behaviors in its manufacturing and supply chain. Oh, bullshit. We know why this is happening, guys. It's because it's cheaper and more cost effective. We are always in search of the best manufacturers, suppliers, and makers around the world who meet or exceed our environmental and sustainable standards and conduct assessments to support this, a spokeswoman said. The company said products would still be designed in Australia, saying its expansion would create 120 new jobs by the end of 2021 financial year. Yeah, in Australia or overseas. The green and gold Australian-made logo has been around for more than 34 years. The Made in Australia claim has never been more powerful than right now. It tells consumers the products that carry the claim are made to some of the highest manufacturing and safety standards in the world, with inputs often sourced from Australia's clean, green environment. And they want to have more manufacturing in Australia. It also makes a compelling statement about generating local jobs and economic activity. Yes, but people want what's cheap. I bet you it'll make no impact on them. I think it'll have no impact. People are going to be struggling, guys. We're entering the first recession in 28 years. So it sounds good, and I agree with it. I agree with manufacturing in Australia. But, you know, when you're scant for money, when you're doing it tough, your family has to come first. And we'll see that happen. Some people just can't afford to. What do you think? Is buying Australia a luxury item? You know, should we have introduced tariffs to protect local manufacturers? Or should the government step out of the way and probably reduce the burden and expenses they're putting on these businesses so they could probably compete more efficiently on a global level? I've seen it happen once with the modular sector. There's one company, they manufactured toilets. They won a big contract to supply Sunshine Coast Hospital. They'd robotically cut them out, assemble them all. He could almost compete with the Chinese prices when you factored in quality and transportation costs, but all made locally. Poor guy got too big, couldn't keep up, had to close it down. It's a bit of a shame. So we'll have to see, everyone. What do you think? Do you think this push for Australian-made, buying in Australia, do you think it'll stick? Or will people just have it too hard and won't be able to afford to do it? Let me know. Are you making decisions to buy Australian-made more often? What do you do? What products do you really want that level of quality? As always, thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next episode.